So let's talk about some dock skipping. You know, it's a great technique to catch bass. You know, you got docks on a lot of different river systems, lake systems. You know, and there's bass that live around docks pretty much all year. The trouble is sometimes they're way back under those docks. You know, fish like shade, they use that as an ambush point. So the key is you have to be able to get a bait to those fish. And especially if you're just learning how to skip docks, you know, there's a lot of baits, jigs and different things you can skip. But for me, one of the first things you can learn to skip with is just a stick worm. You take simply just a 1/0 hook, put a little O-ring around that stick worm, and you can skip. I mean, it doesn't take very long at all to learn how to skip. You're looking for those shade lines. You want to pitch that bait as far back in there as you can to where you think a bass might be hiding. Sometimes they're on the corners, sometimes they're in the very back. The fish will tell you where that's at. But the key is you want to try to get where most other baits can't get to. So you see I got that bait way back in there. You want to let it sink down however deep it is. You know, if it's 2 foot, 20, whatever it is, you want to let it sink down there to where you think you've made the right presentation to that bass. Fish it and then get it back out and make another cast. Again, with skipping, it just allows you to reach different water than what you're ever able to reach with any other bait. When you're skipping docks, your equipment is really key. It's gonna cut down on your frustration, make it easier for you to learn, and make the right presentation to those bass. For me, I built a certain rod for this application, and that's an NEPS 86 MLF. Now, it's a medium light fast rod, spinning rod, obviously application. It's a 7.2. Now, I'm not a tall guy, but I'm a little over 6 foot, so I'm able to have a 7.2. Now, you might like a 7-footer. You could cut this rod down when you build it, or you could just maybe look at a 7-foot model. But the key to the rod is with this MLF, it's perfect because you need the right amount of tip to make that skip. It's all about when you're trying to lay that bait down on the water, you need the right tip. The 86 MLF NEPS has that. Plus, so when you skip it underneath there and that big bass that you're trying to catch gets a hold of that bait, you're going to need the rod to get it out of there. This rod has the right parabolic bend to keep that fish hooked, but it's also got a little bit of stiffness back here to be able to set that hook. So you're not worried about, did I actually get the hook in the fish or not? So for me, it's the perfect balance between everything so that I can make the right presentation, but I can also get that fish out of there. It's a good medium for me for a lot of applications, but especially for skipping. I'm going to look to this NEPS 86 MLF. Your line is key as well, depending on how much, you know, if there's brush under there or what kind of cover or your color water, you're going to have to make the judgment on your line. But you definitely want to go with a braided main line, Seaguar Smackdown. 20-pound test is usually what I do, flash green, and then I'm going to run a fluorocarbon leader, anywhere from 8 to 12-pound test most of the time with the stick worm, wacky style. That's going to be my setup, just depending on what kind of cover's under that dock. The rod and the spinning reel will make it easy to learn how to skip. So if you've got the right equipment, it's going to go a long way into making it easier for you to learn and not be so frustrated with skipping. The bait, you just simply need a stick worm with an open. Usually I use a 1/0 hook. Usually it works better with an O-ring. Slide that on there, won't tear as many baits up, and you can start skipping right away.